Today is January 4th, 2018. My name is Joe Todd. This is an interview with Roy Lee Clarkson in Bartonsville, Oklahoma. Sir, where were you born?
El Dorado, Kansas,
And when's your birthday?
September 7th, 1953.
Who is your father?
Roy Lee Clarkson,
And your mother?
Irma Audine, Wilhite Clarkson.
Wilhite. What was the middle name?
Audine,
Audine?
Irma Audine.
A-U-D?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Did you go through school in El Dorado?
No, I didn't. I went to a little country school called at Rosalia, which is 12 miles east of El Dorado.
What's the name of the school?
Rosalia,
You know how to spell that?
Rosalia. It was originally Rosalia when it was grade school. When it became high school, it became when they consolidated, it was Flint Hills High School.
Okay. What year did you graduate from high school?
1971.
1971. What type of work your father do?
He was a highway worker. He worked for the state on highways.
Okay. Now, did you live in El Dorado? Did you live out?
Lived out in the country.
Okay.
Lived out in Rosalia. Farming community. Done a lot of farming.
What chores do you do on the farm?
Oh, I was milking cows, feeding them, and haying horses, and take care of the chickens, and gardening. Favorite things.
How large is the farm?
Grandpa had a farm that was well over, I would say, close to a little over 2,000 acres.
What crops did you raise?
He mainly raised corn and milo and baled hay.
Okay. How many cows did you milk?
Usually he only had about 3 or 4 in there.
Okay.
He didn't have that many. It was just things we used for personal use. That was about it.
What tractor did you have?
John Deere, of course.
John Deere. Were you out in the fields plowing?
I plowed, disc, planted, sometimes helped combine, haul the grain out.
What was your favorite chore on the farm?
Favorite one? I guess was going out in the hayfield and haying,
What was your least favorite chore?
cleaning out the barns.
So, hay and what size bales did you have?
He mainly had between 80 and 90-pound bales.
Did you buck bales?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was the only way you made your summer money was if you
Yes.
didn't buck bales, you didn't.
I remember those days.
And it was very cheap too back then.
I went up to visit my cousin here a while back. It's all mechanized now.
Yeah, that's the bad part. Kids nowadays don't realize that 10 cents a bill was pretty good back then.
That's right. How large was the school you went to?
It was a fairly good sized school, but most of the classes were anywhere from 15 to 25 per class. My senior class when I graduated, there was 18 of us.
18. Who was your favorite teacher?
I would have to say it was Mrs. Fritchie. She was a music teacher.
What was her name?
Fritchie,
Why was she your favorite?
she just made things interesting. And she took time with a lot of us, She was real good at music. She took us a lot of times to the festivals and all that. She was a good enough teacher that a lot of us walked out of there with first place and everything and put our school right up there at the top for the state.
Yep. Where's the nearest movie theater?
El Dorado.
El Dorado.
Yep.
How often would you get to El Dorado?
Every weekend.
Every weekend.
That was every Saturday morning. Go paying bills and grocery shopping.
How often do you go to the movie?
That was might be once a month, or if you got lucky, twice.
Okay. Do you remember the Gulf of Tonkin incident in 1964?
Not offhand, no.
That's when they said the North Vietnamese attacked our ships in the Gulf of Tonkin.
Okay, yeah.
And that's what Johnson used to,
Infiltrate them, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where were you when Kennedy was assassinated?
School.
What did you think?
I was really hurt at that point because I thought he was pretty good. You know.
What did you do after high school?
First thing I went to mechanic school. Until the school I was going to, they closed it down because of funding. And I went to driving trucks. In 1973, I decided that if I was going to do this, I'm going to make a career out of it, and went to the military.
What company were you working for? Well, I mean, what school? The school that you went to. What was the name of it?
Which, what do you mean, the U.S. Trade School was
Yes.
for the mechanic, was U.S. Trade School in
US
Kansas
Trade.
City.
Okay.
It no longer exists anymore. They totally closed it down.
Okay. And who were you driving for? Driving trucks?
Kansas, well, I started out driving for Hertz, retrieving trucks, and then went to El Dorado driving for Kansas Aluminum, which made patio doors and windows and all that.
Okay.
Delivery truck driver.
Okay. Now, did you enlist or were you drafted?
I enlisted. I was a volunteer.
Okay. When did you enlist?
In August 28th of 1973.
In the Army?
Yep.
Why did you join the Army or the Navy, Marines, or Air Force?
You know, I really didn't know at the time why, but now after the wife's done our history, that's what all of our family done. Because all my ancestors was in civil, you know, wars and everything. And, they were all Army.
Where'd you go for your basic training?
Fort Leonard Wood.
Fort Leonard Wood. Tell me about basic.
It was pretty good. I was actually the oldest one in the company at the time because all the others were like 17 and 18, and I was the only one that was 20 going on 21.
What type of training did you have?
Well, at that time, we had the regular basic training, you know, doing all your firearms and all that. And at that time, they still had the old escape and evasion course there at Fort Leonard Wood. They called it Little Korea. We had to go through that. I guess that was the one I liked the best because it challenged you.
What about bivouac?
Yeah, that was cool.
Tell me, what'd you do on bivouac?
Well, we bivouac, you know, stayed out there overnight and all that. We went and attacked places. That's where they incorporated the escape and evasion because that's where the seniors would come out and capture us, bring us in and everything. What was it, bivouac?
Mm-hmm.
That was the ending of the bivouac was when you went through the escape and evasion course.
What's your most vivid memory of basic?
I guess it is the escape and evasion course, and at the end of it being the drill sergeants and everything. They were real good. They made a good impression on people.
After basic, where'd you go for your AIT?
Matter of fact, I was in the last group that went through Fort Ord, California for the transportation school.
What'd you do in transportation school?
Well, they were teaching them how to drive the trucks, cross solid land and cross sand and everything at that point, and teaching them how to maintain the trucks. And at the beginning, they asked for student instructors, and some of us volunteered to go test for it, which me and a couple others, we tested out as being knowledgeable since we were all truck drivers before, and they utilized a lot of us at times to help with the other students, like driving the standards and teaching them how to drive and how to mount tires and all this stuff.
What trucks were you driving?
We were back then we was driving the old M series, the old small 2.5 tons and 5 tons.
The 2.5 ton, is that a 6x truck?
Yes,
Okay. And the 5 ton?
that's a 6x also,
Okay.
just a little bit bigger truck,
Okay.
a little heavier frame. And then they had the 1/2 ton and the 3/4 ton Jeeps and stuff at that time.
Now, as a driver, did you pull maintenance on the trucks?
Yeah, we done our pre-trips and all that stuff on the trucks. You know, you done your pre-inspections, your after inspections, and you done tire changing and, you know, just maintenance, all around maintenance. The major maintenance was done by the maintenance shop itself.
Okay. And how long your transportation school will last?
I think back then it was 8 weeks.
8 weeks. Then where'd you go?
I returned back to Fort Leonard Wood. I was stationed at Fort Leonard Wood at the transportation motor pool there, TMP, where I spent time there. Well, I started out driving sedans and driving officers and then driving the buses, and then they found out that I was, again, tractor-trailer driver, and they had an old truck out there that had the old 5x4 in it nobody else could drive, and that was a fun truck to drive.
It was what truck was it?
It was a tractor, big tractor to pull in low boys and stuff with,
Okay.
and it had the old 5 and the 4-speed transmission in it.
Nobody else could drive it.
Well, there was only a couple of us there who could drive that truck.
Yeah.
You had the old split sticks, and you had to reach through, and that's when I found out that the one heavy-duty 10-ton wrecker we had a 5 and a 2-speed in it, 2-sticker, and they ended up, the rest of my time there, I was operating it for them.
Now, what would you carry on the big 5-ton trucks?
On, what, just the cargoes or
Yeah.
the ammunition, troops?
Okay. And the wrecker was used for,
Well, at that time there at the TMP, it was a commercial wrecker, and it was for towing in the sedans. Well, they had a smaller wrecker for the sedans and the pickups, and the big one that I drove most of the time was to tow in the buses and the tractor trailers with.
okay. And how long you at Fort Leonard Wood then?
I was there, I think about 14 months, 14 or 15 months there.
What's your most vivid memory of that time at Fort Leonard Wood?
I guess the main one was that it was the worst accident that Fort Leonard Wood had had in a long time, where a 12 trans driver from the transportation unit there on post had wrecked a truck in the middle of the night, bringing people out of the bivouac area, and he rolled it and killed a bunch of soldiers. We had to go out there with the wrecker operator for that company. Didn't know how to operate the wrecker very well, and me and another guy took our big 10-ton out there and split the booms and picked the back of the truck up so the medics and all could get in there and take the people out. That's stuck in my mind. It's still stuck in my mind.
So from Fort Leonard Wood, where'd you go?
I went to Mannheim, Germany.
How'd you travel to Germany?
Do what?
How'd you travel to Germany?
By plane.
By plane. You left the States from where?
At that time, you went to, I believe it was, I can't remember the base out there, but you went to the East Coast and climbed on a plane there. You know, they were commercial planes, but you flew out of a Air Force base with it at that time.
Was it Pope Air Force Base or?
No, it was McGuire.
McGuire is located where?
New Jersey.
New Jersey, okay. Did you fly directly to Mannheim?
No, we flew into Frankfurt, and then they bused us down to Mannheim.
Okay. What unit were you assigned to?
I was assigned to, I can't remember the unit now, it was a transportation unit there.
Okay. And what was your,
41st, it was 41st I was in, 41st.
I'm sorry, 41st?
41st trains.
Okay. Were you assigned to a division or was it an independent unit?
Well, there was a company there that had the 51st, the 41st, and the 590th.
Okay,
We were at Turley Barracks,
okay.
and I was in the 41st, and matter of fact, when I got there, the commanders and all of them was looking at me like, there was 4 of us come in, and they had 3 truck driving positions open. And the other guys had seniority on me, so they got the truck driving positions, and I'm sitting here in limbo, and they asked me if I would be willing to cross-train into being a mechanic, which I did. They found out that I was a recovery operator at Fort Leonard Wood. And next thing I know, I'm training for maintenance, and I'm driving their 5-ton wrecker, which was in sad shape because the last guy that had it never took care of it. And By the time I left there, I had lights on it. It was painted, all fixed up, and left with a good record sitting there.
And when did you arrive in Mannheim?
Geez, I'm trying to remember what years that was. I think that was in '75, I believe.
75. Have any contact with the local people around Mannheim?
Oh, yeah.
What was their reaction to you?
You know, really, they were nice people. They really were. There was some of them, well, they were real nice, especially like Christmas time. They had a thing where the Germans would come in and pick some of us up to go to their house for Christmas and all that, which me and a couple other guys got lucky. We got to go to one of the houses out there, and the couple were real nice. They, had a couple of younger German kids there, and it was really, really nice. We learned a lot of the culture, and I was interested in learning the language, which in turn it helped me because they seemed like they took an interest in trying to help me learn the language. Matter of fact, after that Christmas, my rest of my time there until I left, they become very good friends of mine. And all my other trips back over there until they passed away, I'd go up and then see them.
Ever come across any of the old German World War II soldiers?
Yes.
What was their attitude?
I was worried about that, and most of them that I come across, they understood, and they weren't real bitter, but you could tell they were standoffish. But after a while, they'd warm up to you. It was one of them you just had to warm up to them and let them warm up to you. You couldn't push them because if you did, you got a real bad reaction from them.
Yeah. And you said you stayed at Turley?
Turley Barracks.
Turley Barracks, is that?
That's the ones downtown.
Okay.
Well, near downtown.
Yeah. Okay. And what's your most vivid memory of Mannheim?
I guess the festivals they had there. It was a partying town.
You there for Fasching?
Yes, twice. I was there for Oktoberfest twice. Matter of fact, I think it was when I got over there, Oktoberfest was starting up at that point. It was fun.
Yes, I've been there for Fasching, but not Oktoberfest.
Oh, Fasching is good. Oktoberfest is tremendous.
Yes. That's what I've heard. Did you travel around Germany?
The first year, most I traveled was, the first time there was Frankfurt. I didn't travel much at that time. Now, the other tours that I was over there, I did do some traveling because I ended up getting a vehicle to travel with, and we, went over into some of the tourist areas and stuff. I didn't ski or nothing like that, but I'd go over there and we'd spend weekends over there, getaways, just to relax from the base.
That in Bavaria, in that area?
Yeah.
Right. Neuschwanstein, the big castle?
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah. Did you get to Cologne?
I went through it and never got into it, never stayed.
Okay.
Never stayed.
Was Mannheim pretty well destroyed in World War II?
I think a lot of it was. There's a lot of rebuild there. It was kind of like Heidelberg. They were both they rebuilt a lot of the town. As a matter of fact, the Heidelberg there, which is next door, every year they'd have to bring in the castle, which was when it was destroyed.
Yep, I got to tour that castle.
Yeah, me too.
And it's being restored now.
Yeah, it's restored. They were working on it when I was there.
Yes.
But every year they'd have the flames and the fireworks and stuff behind it to simulate the burning of the castle.
Heidelberg's a beautiful city.
Yes, it is.
You know it was not damaged in World War II?
No, I don't.
There's an unwritten agreement. The British told the Germans, if you don't bomb Oxford, we won't bomb Heidelberg.
Yeah.
So neither town was damaged.
Yeah.
And you were in Mannheim how long?
2 years.
2 years. Then
Almost, right at 2 years.
okay. From Mannheim, where'd you go?
I went back to Fort Leonard Wood.
Okay.
Went there to 12th Transportation Group.
What'd you do there?
I was a truck driver, hauling troops and ammunition and food out to the training areas.
And you were there how long?
I was there almost 2 years, again, at Fort Leonard Wood.
And then from where'd you go from there?
I went to Augsburg, Germany,
Augsburg, Germany.
again, right down there by Munich.
What'd you do there?
I went there, by that time I had got my E5, and they didn't have a platoon sergeant when I got there, and I ended up being a platoon sergeant for a support platoon for a field artillery unit. We were hauling the powder and the rounds for the 105 howitzers, the self-propelled.
Of course, how far were you from East Germany?
There, you was a little ways away from East Germany there.
What do you think about, East and West Germany and the country being split? What do you think about this?
I thought it was awful rough at the time.
What did the Germans think about this?
The West sometimes the West felt sorry for them, and sometimes they had animosity against them, because of the Russians and all in there. And you talk about how close I was. Well, my last duty station over there, I was very close. Matter of fact, I was on the border.
That's your next duty station?
Nope, my fourth duty station over there,
So you went to Germany 4 times?
4 times.
Where's your third station?
Swankfurt.
Where's that located?
That's up in the middle northeast of Frankfurt.
Okay. You were there how long?
2 years.
And
I was a platoon sergeant for a tank battalion,
okay.
support platoon there, hauling ammunition and stuff again. At that point, we had a lot of people hadn't seen them or ever drove them, and they were called goers.
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 What is a goer?
It is a cargo truck that looks like a big box that looks like a uke, front end on it, and you've got a cargo box on the back. You got two big tires up front, 2 big tires in back, and there's no suspension on them. None. The suspension in them trucks is in the springy in the seats, which wasn't very good either.
And what'd you haul in these trucks?
Ammunition.
Ammunition.
Yep.
And you took the ammunition to where?
Well, for them, the only place we used them was we took them out to Hornsfeld and all that for the training, and we would haul the ammunition from the ammo dumps out to the firing ranges for the tanks.
Okay. And you were Swankford how long?
2 years.
2 years.
Yep.
And then you went to the border?
My last tour, which was 3-year tour, was spent in Berlin.
Berlin. When were you in Berlin?
That was I left there in near 89. I was there from I believe it was 86 to 89, 3 years there. And I was actually there when the wall come down.
Now, you got there in 86.
Yeah.
What did you think in being in West Berlin?
Well, to begin with, I felt like we were trapped. It really, to being in Berlin at that time, you had to really want to be there. Because as far as getting out of there, like you would in the West, you could just jump in your vehicle and go to Frankfurt. There, you didn't jump in your vehicle and go to Frankfurt. You planned it a week or so out when you were going to leave Berlin to go to the West, because you had to get all these documents and papers and approvals to go across the corridor from east to west.
Tell me about crossing the corridor.
that was a time-consuming ordeal. You would, you'd start in Berlin itself, and you go up to the checkpoint to going into, getting on the Autobahn and going through the corridor itself. And you would take your paperwork along with your ID and whoever else was riding with you, their IDs, and you'd take them, one person only would take them up to the shack, and you wouldn't see nobody. The wall, it was a blacked out wall. You couldn't see nobody behind there. You was in a little room, and you put your documents into a tray, and your documents would disappear. Now, it depends on how long and how quick they wanted to be behind there, how long you were going to sit there. You might sit there 10 minutes, you might sit there an hour. But once you put them in there, you couldn't leave that room. So you had to sit in there and wait. Sometimes that room would be almost packed with people trying to leave, going back and forth. They're either Americans, French, or British. And they'd bring your documents back, and you had a map of how you would go out, where you make the exchange. You head off of one Autobahn to another one and head west, and you would follow the exact route.
Is this the map they gave you?
This is the map we had there in Berlin. They would give you the map. This was a route that you went. Do not get off that route. Because if you did, you would see a Hind helicopter, Russian helicopter, right at your front door, looking at you, telling you you're off route. You don't belong here. And going down the route, if you watch off to the side, you'd see the helicopters flying along checking you. And you get down to the other end where you're going to cross over from east into west, and it's the same thing again. This time, you stop, you put it in for the Russians, they do their check, then you go over the border, and you present your documents again for the west side to look at, which was, you looked at them face to face, because they just look at your documents and say, oh, you're a soldier, have a good day, enjoy, we'll see you on the, and most of them will ask you, do you have your return trip documents yet? And mainly when I would go, I'd always have my go and return documents with me. And I'd say, yes, I do. They'd say, well, can we look at them, make sure they're correct here before you get back here? That way, you know, we have no problems. And they'd look over the documents, make sure they were correct. And so I'd be ready to go when I come back. Because all you do is stop there, look at them, and say, okay, here it is. Okay, yeah, you're good, go. You know, there's nothing they'll hold you up about.
Now, in the corridor, was it Russian guards or East German guards?
Both. And you fueled up your vehicle before you went in the corridor, because there was no place for you to stop and get fuel going through there.
How far is it from West Berlin to Berlin?
I believe, if I remember right, it was about 3 and a half hour trip. About what it was.
You couldn't stop?
You could stop and go to the restroom, but you could not. They had little rest areas along the way. You could stop and go to the restroom. But as far as fuel, food, you wasn't going to get none of that there.
Yeah.
You know, you got in the corridor, you drove, you got out of the corridor. And that was the same thing when you was in Berlin there. There was Checkpoint Charlie, actually where the wall first come down at Checkpoint Charlie. We would take tours over there. And weekends I had nothing to do, and I drove a bus. And some of us platoon sergeants and senior NCOs, which they preferred, we drive the bus over for the people that go over and shop over there. And we'd take them over, and you go through a maze. That's why they wanted us to drive, because you went through a maze with them buses. It was tight getting through there with them buses. And you would go up in there, and they would check you at this point, you go in, you'd stop, bus driver would get out, or else the guide that was with us would take all of our documents and go and process them and come back in, hand them back to everybody, make sure she had all the documents, or he had them, and then we'd go on in. We had a certain route, we would go in and park downtown. They had a parking area for all the buses. And of course, you could look around, you could see we was being watched. And you had the whole downtown area down there to shop in. And you exchange your money right there before you went over the border, so you'd have east marks instead of west marks.
The East would not take the West marks?
They would, but the exchange rate was horrible,
Okay.
you know.
How did East Berlin compare to West Berlin?
Trashy. Some of it was, if you got away from downtown where they were trying to make the good, quote, play, you know, make it look good, if you got out away from that, it was dirty. It was,
Had it been rebuilt since World War II?
most of it had been. They've been working on it. And, Hitler's bunker was still there. They were the East Germans were in the process of tearing it out. They were taking it apart. And being there, I got to go a couple times over on Friday nights and Saturday nights. I got to go over with the rest of the seniors, and we'd go over and have dinner and stuff with the Russians too.
What was their attitude, the Russians?
You know, the ones I got to meet and got to know, they were pretty nice. They were really, I think some of them get a bad reputation. The ones I had a couple friends over there who was Russians, and they would know that I was coming over, and all the big wigs, officers and all them go over to one side, and the NCOs and all of us go over to this side, and we'd have little places down there. We'd go down and sit and eat and drink, you know, and talk. You know, have dinner with them. And it was pretty nice, you know.
Now, where were you staying in West Berlin?
I was married at the time, and we had housing out there on the economy itself. Seniors, NCOs and stuff like that, platoon sergeants and all. The juniors most of them lived in housing areas. And a lot of the seniors lived out on the economy out there. And we were living in a big apartment complex that was just newly built. Matter of fact, we was the first ones to move into it when I got there. And it was new apartments. And they were like 2 and 3 bedroom apartments there.
Now, what unit were you assigned to in Berlin?
That was the 4th, the 502nd Infantry.
4th and the 502nd?
Yeah.
Still a truck driver?
Yep.
Or bus driver?
Well, truck driver.
Truck driver.
I worked with the platoon there, platoon sergeant and all that at that time.
The Berlin Wall.
Yes.
Describe that.
It was a nice, high, thick, I'd say good distance thick wall made out of, well, looking at it from the outside, you would say it was made from good concrete. But most of the sections they were built pillars, and a lot of the sections slid in. That's what they had. And when the wall started coming down, the first couple of sections, they just took a bucket and slammed them down right there at Checkpoint Charlie. They just knocked them down. And I was really surprised that when they hit them with the bucket, the wall just kind of almost disintegrated. And I got to thinking, wait a minute, something's wrong here. Well, I was kind of helping them. We were moving busloads of people. We was loading buses, and drivers would take them over. Our training area, which was on the border over there for us, we were taking them over to buildings that the West Germans had set up to give them Kindergeld and their funding and everything for the East Germans. And they were, taking care of them over there. I had a East German Polizei walk up to me and hand me a piece of the wall. And at a point, we've been told not to pick up the wall. And I'm standing there, and this East German Polizei hands me a piece of the wall. And one of the senior officers was standing there. He looked at me, and he says, "Don't refuse that." He says, "Take it." He says, he's making a goodwill gesture to you, take it. And it was informed that some of us up there had already got pieces of wall given to us by the east, and we got to keep our pieces, you know. That was before they started people collecting them.
Oh, yeah.
And at that time, I looked at the piece, and I'm going like, wow, mine was about this big. And if you rubbed your hand over it, it would flake off. It was substandard concrete, and they used gems, rocks, bottles, pieces of metal, anything they could throw in there to make substance to it, and that's what it was. And I realized when I brought it back, I should have vacuumed it, because by the time I got back, my size, this size, it went down to this size already from shipment.
About half the size.
Right. And I should have vacuumed it at that time.
Yeah. Now, did you have any notice that the wall was going to come down?
You know, they knew about it. The higher-ups knew about it. And the next thing we knew, at one point there, they come over to us and said, hey, we need this help, this is what we got to do. These buses need to be up here at the border, up here at Checkpoint Charlie, all set up, lined up. And all of a sudden, the training was shut down, or doing training. And they were setting up the training areas. We're going like, okay, we had training scheduled, what's going on here? And finally, they told the seniors, you know, hey, this is what's going to go on. You know, we don't know when the wall is possibly going to come down.
Because I was watching the news, and they had big rallies in East Germany of 100,000, 200,000 people
Yeah.
in East Germany.
Yeah.
And I guess the government couldn't fight those big crowds.
No,
Is that what brought the wall down?
I really don't know. I don't know. I don't really what it brought down there at Berlin, but I couldn't say. I think it could have been. I think it was the people rallying against it, and the East and West have been talking a lot more, you know. And it's,
So tell me about the wall coming down.
oh, it's just they brought in cranes and track hose and wrecking balls, and they'd come up there and just started knocking it down. They knocked down a good portion of it, and at that point right there at Checkpoint Charlie, they knocked over a good portion because they wanted to filter the people through there to the buses and bring them through. And dozers on the other side was clearing out all the race, I call them race tracks, where you had to drive the vehicles through. They were dozing that out of the way so people could come right on through to the buses. And then we were just filtering them down about like cattle, okay, to the buses. As soon as we get a bus full, we send that bus on. And, you know, we had the American buses there, we had the Air Force buses there, we had the British buses, the French buses, and of course the German city buses were all there helping.
Where were the people going?
They were taking them up the military, the Army, ourselves there. We had a training area just, well, it was a little ways from there. That was right along it. It bordered the border. Matter of fact, when we would train, we could look right across and see the East Germans and the Russians over there. They could watch us train. And vice versa, we could watch them. And they would take them up there. They call it city training, which that area there, that's what you've done. You train for city. And all these buildings we had looked like, you know, big tall buildings, small houses, and odd and ends. And they had a couple of the bigger buildings set up to as mess hall, medical, run them through to give them their money and everything, their funding. And then they come out the other side, and they have buses that would take them on out to the airports, and they had buses coming in from the outside that would transport them on over to West Germany if they wanted to go. And a lot of them was transported back to the Checkpoint Charlie, went back over to their houses. Because now that they come over and got these documents, they're free.
Yeah.
And they can go back to their homes.
How long did it take for east and west to get together? Was it a matter of days?
It was a
weeks?
matter of days, yeah. I'd say by the end of the week, things were winding down. Well, the first couple of days, it was hectic, and then after that, it just kind of,
Well, I've seen photographs of people on top of the wall and everything, and.
yeah,
Were you there when that was going on?
yeah.
What did you think, seeing people on top of the Berlin Wall?
Well, I was hoping they didn't fall and kill themselves for one, but it was pretty good. They'd move them off of there, and then they'd demolish that portion of the wall.
Well, you think that you were actually witnessing history?
Yeah. I knew it when the wall come down. I said, "Man, I'm here for history. I don't believe this.
Yeah.
I can't believe what's happening. You know, here I am. You know, someplace that history's being made. It's really weird."
Mm-hmm. So you left Berlin, and now when did the wall come down?
See, I'm trying to think of it. I left Berlin in December. I believe it was either October or November. There's when that wall was coming down.
Of 89?
Of 88.
88.
Of 88. Because I left there in 88, because 89 was when Desert Storm started up near the end of 89.
So you left Berlin in December of 88?
December of 88.
Okay, okay.
I remember that real well because I got back, and 10 days after I got back, my father passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That time period there, I remember that well.
So you got back December of 88. What'd you do?
Well, of course, vacation there, and then I got, ended up going to, as soon as I come back, I was scheduled to go to ANOC. So,
To-
ANOC,
Which is?
Advanced NCO Academy.
Okay,
I got to go out to Fort Eustis
okay.
for school. And from there, they shipped me to El Paso, Texas. 3rd to 3rd ACR.
I took basic there.
Yeah, I got stationed at headquarters, 3rd to 3rd ACR.
What'd you do there?
I was the main support platoon for the battalion.
And what did you do?
Actually, I done a lot of the movements work there. We loaded trains, mainly trains we loaded there. And we went to Beaumont when everything kicked off and loaded boats. And went to over there to Bahrain to unload them.
Tell me about the trip to Bahrain. Did you go with the boats?
No, I didn't get to go with the boats. We brought them in. We loaded trains, and we took the train. The trains were heading down, and I was on the train going to Beaumont. And I got to Beaumont, and the commander had sent word down there that I was to get on a plane and fly back to Fort Bliss, that I wasn't staying there. You know, I got started with loading the boats, that they had another crew was going to load the boats there, and I had to come back to Fort Bliss because I was getting the crew ready to go to fly over to Bahrain. And I was in the advance party going over to Bahrain, which was over there, arrived there in end of August of 89.
Now, when did the Iraqis invade Kuwait?
I was thinking it was about a month or so before that, I believe. That's when they set fire to all the oil wells and everything. Yeah.
And what'd you do in Bahrain?
There we unloaded the ships. Got the vehicles set up in the staging area, waiting for the rest of the troops to show up. Matter of fact, we had everything unloaded and in the staging area just as everybody showed up to get ready to move out. Once they were there to make room for the other units coming in, they moved us on out into Saudi Arabia there to a holding area.
Is that at Bahrain?
Bahrain?
No, in Saudi Arabia. Because we landed at Dhahran in Arabia.
Yeah, we landed there at Dhahran, then went over to Bahrain from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, where was the holding area in Arabia?
That was about, I would say it was about 4 or 5, maybe 6 hours on out into the desert.
Okay.
We were just out there in the desert because we seen a lot of the camel jockeys out there, got to learn about the camels quite a bit.
What'd you do out in the desert?
Well, we set up there until Christmas time. We'd set up a camp out there, and mainly what we did, we'd run fuel and get our fuel up there where we needed to stock up the tanks that were coming in, because a lot of the tanks we unloaded, they were unloading, and a lot of them they didn't bring. When we got there, they took away the old tanks and gave us new tanks. And they were giving us, there was a bunch of new tanks come in, we
Were
unloaded.
the M1s?
Yeah.
Okay.
We brought over the M1s, and then they got into the M1A1s and some of the M1A2s. They were getting into the new tanks. So we had to go get different, get ammunition and stuff for them, get them refitted with ammunition and fuel and everything for them. I had the fuel trucks and the ammunition haulers. We only had like 2 5-tons, all the rest of them were Hemmets,
Yeah.
the 8-wheel Hemmets.
Now, how far from the Iraqi border was your holding area?
We were quite a ways from it there
Okay.
at that point, because the next move we made was about a day, almost a day move up to the neutral zone. Right after Christmas, before New Year's, we moved to the neutral zone. When we set up there until they said, let's go to battle, which
So-
wasn't very long.
So when did you cross the berm into Iraq?
I can't remember exact date on it, but it was, I think we'd sit there for like maybe 3 or 4 days.
I think the war actually started February 24th.
Yeah, that's about when.
Yeah. What did you think going into Iraq?
Really, didn't have much to think. We done it at night, so you really didn't know when you was in Iraq. All I know is that night we started moving. The first sergeant and me and the commander were talking where we was going to go to. We'd already mapped it out. My lieutenant, he had it on his GPS and everything in his Humvee, and I was back there monitoring the back of the convoy, which we were fully loaded with ammunition and fuel at the time, and we were supposed to go out to a certain zone out there and set up our refueling, rearming area. We'd been practicing a refueling technique that we could refuel the tanks and stuff on the go. And we was waiting to see if it was really going to work as good as we practiced it over at Hunter Liggett there in California, and it seemed to work, but under these conditions, was it going to work? And it worked perfect. I mean, what me and the lieutenant set up worked great.
What was the weather?
Hot. It was like 110 in the shade. And Christmas Eve was like 105 degrees. Christmas Day was 125 degrees there.
Now, Arabia being a closed country, were you able to celebrate Christmas?
Yeah. Yeah, we could celebrate it there at our encampment. Matter of fact, while we were sitting there waiting to everything to start, a lot of us that had been there for a while, like me and my crew and some other people, King Fod and all them, extended their hand to say, these guys need it a couple days away. Can you let them go for a couple days? And they sent buses down there to our encampment to pick us up, and took us up to his tourist area, his little area that he has, his I guess you'd say his partying area. There had a bunch of buildings up there that had bowling alleys, movie theaters, restaurants, motel. Everything there was free to us at that point. We spent 2 days there, spent overnight there, and got to go bowling and movies and eat and have a good time. A nice, hot, clean shower inside of a room.
Because when we went over there, our chaplain could not wear the cross. He had to wear a happy face.
Yeah.
They could not have the cross in Arabia.
No, you can't. No.
So you go into Iraq. What do?
Well, first thing we set up, first refueling, we was actually supposed to have a unit ahead of us, and that didn't work out because we looked up and seen the Iraqis coming over the hill at us. We had a surprise that morning. And our luck was the unit we were refueling was there on time, well, actually, a little ahead of time. And while they were waiting to do all their refueling and everything, they were up there ahead of us, protecting us while we done the refueling to them.
Were these Iraqis coming over to attack you or what?
They were coming to blow us up.
Oh,
They were coming to take, that was Republican, part of the Republican Guard. They were coming to take us out. And they had a big surprise, because once we were getting them guys refueled, they weren't in very good shape, because the units we had there, that was their job. Go work on the Republican Guard. And we'd been there we'd moved a couple times, reset and refueled, rearmed. Most of it was done at night, all the way across, and then they come up to where we was nearing, I think it was like 90 hours already. And we were set up we went and, the tanks had slowed down, we went up to refuel them up front, and got done refueling them, coming back, and we're getting ready to, as a matter of fact, I was talking to my old unit, plus 4th of the 502nd and the 5th of the 502nd was there. And a lot of guys that I used to know that was there, wondering, what, you coming over here with us? No, I'm over here with the tanks. And we were all sitting there prepared, because they were supposed to go up behind our tanks to take out Saddam.
so you were with the tanks and not with the 50?
Nope. I was with the 3rd ACR at the time. over there.
33rd ACR?
Yep.
Okay.
Armored Cavalry Regiment. Yep.
Out of Fort Bliss.
Yep.
And you had the M1 tanks there?
Yep.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, we had the M1s.
How far in Iraq did you get?
We were about 50 miles from Baghdad.
Why'd you stop?
That was when the president and all the others said, stop. We were doing peace talks with Saddam. And General Schwarzkopf and all them said, stop. Hold up. Stay where you're at. We sat there for, I guess it was about, 8, 9, 10 hours. We sat there out in the desert, all of us waiting to still move forward. And we got the orders to turn around and come back to Bahrain.
What'd you think?
Well, at the beginning, I was wondering, this can't be over already. This can't be, it can't be happening. And we're getting, commanders and them and getting mixed signals of what's happening. And on the way back, we're running into the children and stuff out there, and a lot of them hadn't been taken care of for food. We had an extra, one of my trucks hauled the MREs, and my commander and the battalion commander all told us, if we run into refugees out there along the way, and they need food, feed them.
Mm-hmm.
Just make sure when you did, don't give them pork. If you had pork, separate that, and, give them MREs and feed them. And which we did. On the way back, we ran into 2 or 3 groups, and a lot of kids were very appreciative of what they could get, But we got back to Bahrain, and we're set up there, and I'm sitting there like, okay, what are we going to do? We're going to regroup, rearm, and we're going to go back out again? They're like, no, we're going home. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I said, we can't load that stuff on a ship. I said, we got to clean it. And they said, yep. They're setting up cleaning areas. Of course, we had to go steam clean the underside of the trucks at that time. And I didn't know at the time they were going to pick out a crew to stay back to clean everything. They had some other units and stuff was going to do the cleaning. And I was up there working under a couple of trucks. Commander come up and grabbed me by the shoulder and says, you get out of here. And I said, what? I said, no. He says, you go back and get your gear. He says, you're on the first plane out of here. So I was on the first plane coming back to Fort Bliss.
And when'd you leave?
I don't remember the exact date on that when we left, but it was, I'm wanting to say it was February into March.
91.
Yeah, of 90.
Well, the war was 91.
91. Yeah.
February 91.
Yeah.
You went back to Fort Bliss?
Yep.
What'd you do?
As soon as I got back to Fort Bliss, we got everything back on the trains and unloaded. And as soon as they got everything unloaded, the commander came up to me and says, "What are you going to do?" I said, "Well, I've got just a little over 18 years in." I said, "I got less than 2 years to retire." And I said, "I'm putting in for retirement here next year." And he said, "Good, I'm glad you said that." I said, "Why is that?" He says, "Because they're wanting to send in an E7 and E8 up here." And he says, "I didn't want to stop on your toes, you know, because everybody we took over, we brought back with us."
Do you take many prisoners in Iraq?
We had another truck set up for hauling prisoners. We hauled a few, and matter of fact, the night that we stopped waiting to go ahead, we had about 3, 4, I think it was 4. I was up there walking the perimeter that night, and one of my troops says, "Hey, Sarge, we've got something coming at us." And we looked out there, night vision goggles, and we had 4 Iraqis coming at us. And as soon as they got close enough to see what we were, their hands went up in the air, their guns went to the ground, and they dropped to their knees. And we went out, I informed First Sergeant on him, who was going out, that we had prisoners out there, Iraqis surrendering. They said, "Go get them, bring them in." They sent other people up there to watch our backs while we went out and brought them back in. We brought 4 of them in, loaded them in trucks, and sent them back to where they were holding them. But that was the first time I captured a Iraqi. Me and another soldier captured 4 of them. It was pretty neat,
What was their attitude?
The group that we picked up, they were hungry. They wanted food and a drink. And they seemed like they were, I guess you'd say they really didn't want to be there. Like they'd been forced into doing this, or being brainwashed into doing it.
Yeah.
And they were just happy, we didn't shoot them.
Yeah.
Because I guess they had been told that you surrender, they're going to shoot you. And when we come out there and they had their hands in the air and they were on their knees. No, I'm not going to shoot somebody that's dropped their weapons to the ground. No. They surrender. You give them the respect of them being a soldier. Because you give them the respect that you want to have to you.
Our chaplain had a little recorder, and I was able to interview some of the Iraqi POWs.
Mhm.
And I interviewed one, and he said, what happened? They said, they came into my house outside of Baghdad and said, "You're going to join the army." I said, "No, we're going to shoot your family, then take you." He said, "Yes, I volunteered."
Yeah.
He said, "They put me on the Iraqi border in a bunker. If I tried to leave, I'd be shot."
Yeah.
And how can you expect loyalty out of people like
You
that?
can't.
So when we showed up, they all surrendered.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why they were surrendering so fast.
Oh yeah, these guys they seen us, they recognized who we were, because we had a big American flag flying up in there, and I had a flag flying off of one of my trucks, and
You still have your flag?
no. I wish I did.
Yeah.
I wish I did. I've still got my hat. I've still got one of my uniforms from over there.
I still have an Iraqi beret I took off an Iraqi soldier with his bayonet.
Yeah, I don't have nothing like that. I had pictures, and on the way back, I'd sent them back, and they never made it back to the States. So, I had a lot of pictures, and I can understand why they confiscated them. They were the type of pictures you wouldn't want to show mommy. A lot of people, I hate to put it this way, but a lot of people don't realize what we've seen over there.
Yes. So when did you retire?
I retired in August of '93.
What'd you do after you retired?
I went to work driving a truck.
For whom?
First I went to work for Swift Transportation for a while. And they decided they wanted to move me to Oklahoma because they were closing the yard down. They said it wasn't very profitable, but, you know, I ain't gonna argue with them. I'm just a truck driver, just a yard man.
Mm-hmm.
And when I come over there, they wasn't gonna give me back my position I was in. So I left there and went, actually I went and flew back to, well, drove back down to El Paso. I'd lost my brother, and I needed to get away from Kansas in the area for a while. I went back down to El Paso because I had some friends down there. And I drove a grocery truck for a while, and then I worked for Budweiser for almost a year.
When'd you come to Bartlesville?
Well, we all got laid off at Budweiser because a couple of drivers complained about if their truck went down, what the old truck they had to drive. Well, the boss got tired of hearing them complain and fired us all. Instead of just firing the ones that were complaining, they fired us all. And I went to work at Phillips Petroleum up there in Borger, Texas. And I was there, I guess I was there about 4 or 5 months. And the guy that was running, the head security guy, he was getting transferred to Bartlesville. And there was like 3 or 4 positions up here open in Bartlesville for security. And he come up to me and asked me if I ever thought about moving to Bartlesville. And I said, why? He says, we got a position walking out at the research center here in Bartlesville. And he says, it pays $2 or $3 more an hour. And I said, fine, I'll take it. You know? They even paid for me moving up here and everything to Bartlesville. I worked for about a year till I met the woman I'm married to now. I went to work for Aero Trucking. Because she said, you like truck driving? Let's go back to trucking. Well, I've done heavy haul for Aero for almost 10 years. Yeah. And when they shut down Aero, I went to another company for a short period of time and ended up having a heart attack. The guy that I used to work with at Aero, his mom owned an escort company, and he told me, you ain't gonna drive a truck again, you're gonna come work for me driving a pickup. And I'd done that for the last 7 years till I retired here.
So you're retired now?
Fully retired, but the complications I got with my back and neck and all, I can't be on the road a long time.
Would you join the Army again?
Yes.
I like to do. Oh, go ahead.
I actually miss it. And a lot of people don't understand that, but it was the closeness, the camaraderie. You had friends.
Yeah.
People really don't realize that, how many, you feel like.
I like to do a word association. I'll give you some words and you give me your reaction.
Okay.
The first one is basic training.
Fun.
AIT.
Getting experience.
Fort Leonard Wood.
Little Korea.
Fort Ord.
Sand and dunes.
West Germany.
Nice people, good partying place.
West Berlin.
It's confined.
Berlin Wall.
A border that did not need to be there.
Lyndon Johnson.
He was a pretty good president.
Richard Nixon.
He was fair.
Ronald Reagan.
I liked him.
Desert Storm.
Should have took him out.
Saddam Hussein.
A terrorist.
George Bush.
wanted to be in history.
How do you want to be remembered?
Being someone that protected this country.
Anything else you want to talk about? Well, sir, this is an excellent interview. I want to thank you for your service and thank you for the interview.
Thank you.
And again, this is January 4th, 2018. My name is Joe Todd. This has been an interview with Roy Lee Clarkson in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. Thank you.